Hello, this is Truth Be Told Transformation, and I'm Bonnie Burkert, here to share tools for transformation to live your highest truth. One thing that's true for me is energy, frequency, and there's a lot of different ways to tap that. Sure, I've been studying yoga a long time, and I feel like I can build energy with breath work and mantra for sure. However, I have had in my life, as I explore meditation, I've had an opportunity for something that is way more otherworldly. I'm not going to say way, but it is definitely more otherworldly and cosmic. And it's light language and a whole different level of frequency than I certainly know that I've been able to achieve just by working some of the physical prompts that we get in yoga. So I've got an expert here for us today to talk to us a little bit more about what light language is, light codes, and I'm introducing Laara. Hi.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
Welcome to Truth Be Told Transformation.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I outed myself a little bit about my interest in light language. And the first time I ever had an experience with that was back in 1997. I was in New York City. A friend invited me to an event. I knew nothing about it. And this woman was bringing forth these otherworldly, I'll use that word again, these sounds that I didn't, at first, I know I was supposed to close my eyes, but I wanted to open my eyes to see, like, how is this woman who looks like an accountant, how is she doing this? And then I did close my eyes and found that what felt like maybe half hour, 45 minutes was indeed 90 minutes of being immersed in this sound that one would call light language. I was lost in it in the most beautiful way. And it's really been something that I've explored ever since. And so I'm so excited, Laara, to learn about your approach and your journey with bringing through these frequencies for healing and really just amping up our life.
Okay, well, first of all, you're describing an experience that I feel like I had in a gong bath of all things, like where they're just banging that gong and you just get transported. And it's so wonderful to hear that you had that sort of experience with light language. So you must have really been dialed in, tuned in to those frequencies that she was bringing forward. So that's just so cool. For myself, I had no experience with light language or light codes until I was awoken at about 3:00 in the morning from a very vivid dream, the kind of dream where you know that spirit is involved because there's so much energy to it. Like, it's not a normal dream. So I woke up and my body was buzzing, and I opened my eyes and I looked around the darkness of my room, and I could literally see 3 codes, like 3 kind of symbol looking things floating around in silver in the darkness of my room. And they were so alive, and they were quite large, actually. Like, they were bigger than my hand. Probably 2 hands. That's probably about the size they were. And they were floating around, 3 of them. And at that time, I had no idea what they were. I was immediately connected to a spirit guide whom I hadn't met before. And so he introduced himself to me. He explained that he would be working with me for a while. And I quickly grabbed my journal, which I had on my side table there, and I started channeling this information so I would have a record of it. And I also drew the codes. And he didn't explain what the codes were. He didn't say anything about that. So they were a total mystery to me. And then the energy sort of died down, and I eventually went back to sleep. I woke up in the morning and looked at my journal to see if this had actually happened, because it's one of those things that just seemed so bizarre. I had certainly never experienced anything like this before. And yes, indeed, I had a record of it. And so I went about my day, and I actually went to a yoga class. And I was just going to like a restorative kind of yoga class that day. And so I was in a posture, and breathing, and I saw another code, but this time it was in my mind's eye. So it wasn't external from me like it was at 3:00 in the morning. So I really wanted to write it down, but of course we're in the middle of this yoga class. And so I asked the spirits, please help me retain this code so that I can take it home and draw it. I didn't want to lose it. And to my utter amazement, it took me about an hour by the time I was able to finish the class and get home and all of that and actually draw this code. I was able to draw the code that I had seen in my mind's eye. And I still didn't have any information about it, but I was intrigued by them. And this continued to happen where I would be out and about and I would see a code, or I would be at a local raw food cafe of all places, and I'd have a person sit next to me and they would start just sharing their life story or what they were currently being challenged by in life. So this could be like something on an emotional level, on a physical level. It could be anything. And I was also in my own awakening process, in my own healing process, and an aspiring, actually hands-on healer. So I really, really was interested in easing pain and suffering. And so I had a person sitting next to me suffering, and I wanted to help them. I was determined to help them, but it didn't always feel appropriate to lay on of hands and start running energy and try to shift the state that way. But instead, I would see this code start to form in my mind's eye, and they always came in the same way. They'd come in from the back on an angle. It was a very specific angle that they'd come in, and I would start to see lines, circles, squiggles, something like that. And I would say to the person, wow, I see this code that maybe could help your situation. Would you like me to draw it for you? And they would always say yes. And they'd always be very excited about it. And like it was completely normal for me to be sharing that I have this code appearing in my brain that could help them with whatever it is that they were struggling with. And so we would find a pen and paper and I would draw the code and I would give them that little piece of paper. I would take a picture with my phone so I would have a record of it. And oftentimes they would come with a funny sounding name, and then a short description of what it was supposed to help with. And then I would send them away with that paper and I wouldn't see them again. And I'd go home and I would draw. I found a little book that, I thought was a really sweet place to be collecting these codes or these symbols. And so I'd go home and I'd put the symbol in the code, in the book, and I'd forget about it. And this happened day after day after day for years, actually. I think it was about, 2.5 years anyway, that I was collecting these symbols at the cafe specifically. But I didn't know what they were. And I would take this little book of these codes around with me to expos, to spiritual events of whatever kind, to metaphysical shops, and I'd show it to anyone who would look at this book. Do you know what these are? Can you tell me what the heck these things are? And people would look and go, no, but I like it. And I remember being at a science and spirituality conference in Nanaimo, British Columbia, which is on Vancouver Island, which is where I'm from. And I handed this book to somebody and they were just like, oh my gosh, this book, I have to have it. How much? Like they wanted it with so much passion that they would have given me the deed to their house. It meant so much to them. And they said, you have to publish this. And I went, oh, okay, well, I'm not a writer. I don't really know how to do any of that, but never say never. And as I was collecting these codes, that started coming to me more. Like the people in the cafe, they'd start asking, oh, are you going to publish this? Because I would tell them every time, this is going in my little book, just in case I ever did publish it. I wanted them to know that the code that I was giving them was maybe going to be out there, not their name or anything like that, but I just wanted them to be comfortable with that, and they all were. And then it was one day, it really like spirit hit me over the head with it that I did have to publish this book. So then I went about trying to figure all that out. And that's how the Little Book of Light Codes was born, which was my first book. And that was published in 2019. Now, that journey from starting to channel these in about 2015, 2016 to actually creating a book to publish in 2019, those few years went from I have no idea what these are to I have an inkling of what these are, but more importantly, I was understanding their power. So I, in the beginning, was, of course, curious and wanted to know what they were. And I figured out that someone said, oh, those are light codes at some point. Someone kind of dropped that language in. Yeah. And then I had something to Google. But there wasn't really much out there. Like Google didn't have a lot of information on light codes in about 2018. So that wasn't helpful. But I did learn to ask spirit, and I started gathering information. And as my questions got deeper, of course, the information got deeper. So at first it was, what are these? And it's like, well, they're packets of energy. Something really like not very descriptive or helpful, but at the same time, actually helpful because I didn't have that information before. So we gathered more and more information, and that's, of course, found in the book. But where we are now, because I've continued to ask these questions and people have continued to ask me more, people want more. And so I get to go and ask spirit for more. And then we all get to learn what these amazing codes are really about. And it's a fantastically rich journey and experience to be on.
Right on. Now, we're on YouTube, but we're also on audio only, right? So can you kind of describe the codes, like just sort of an example? Do they look like an S? Do they look like a cross? Do they look like an Eye of Horus, the Egyptian symbol? What would you liken it to?
Some of them have similarities to, like Japanese characters.
Okay.
Some of them are more in the form of a sacred geometry. So there can be circles, or there could be a spiral with dots coming out of the spiral. There could be, lines crossing with dots coming out of some of the lines. Like there are an infinite way that these codes can be expressed. Some of them are very, very simple, and some of them can get extremely complex.
How beautiful. I love that. And your book is called Light Codes, correct?
I have 3 books.
Okay.
The Little Book of Light Codes. And then we have Light Codes for the Soul. And that was the second book. And then we have the newly released Ascension Codes, the Little Book of Light Codes, Volume 2.
Fantastic. Okay. We will keep our eyes open for those because I definitely want to see those. So how did your life change? I mean, I want to go back to the night that this all came to you. Were you scared? I mean, you said that you woke up, you had this powerful sensation, and then there were very, very brilliant symbols before you. Yes. So, I mean, did you default? Were you thinking this was some sort of an extraterrestrial experience, for example?
You know what? I have had experiences where I feel that it was an extraterrestrial experience. That made me nervous. This one did not. The energy of this exchange, we'll call it, was so loving that any thought of fear would have just been like supported in the most nurturing, loving way. There was no space for fear to come up within my being. So I was just I was like in a cocoon, but of love. But in this cocoon, my whole body was vibrating. All the cells were excited. And it was definitely an upload, download, expansion experience. Like I was receiving a lot of energy. And since then, I've received several of these kind of downloads. Some people might be even familiar with them, where we wake up in the middle of the night and the body can be buzzing and your eyes can be open or closed, but you'll see like these screens coming, like past your vision somehow. It's all like very internal. Like you can have your eyes open and you could almost see a projection, but it is a very internal thing. And it could be, I've had zeros and ones go by. I've had faces go by. That's weird. But it's so fast that you almost don't have time to have like an emotional response. And you know that this is high energy and it's a good thing. Like, again, it's the support is there. And if you feel any fear, then it tends to just dissipate. And that's the other way you kind of know that this is a loving act, is that like love doesn't want to, there's no space for fear with love. And there's no, love doesn't want to put you in a fearful state.
Thank you. I think that would be an example of a tool that people could take away from your experience, whether or not they are specifically having this kind of a download or just knowing that distinction. How does it feel? And being in a place of love and just knowing that is a strong symbol to pay attention. And to be open to it, which you clearly have been. So I'm assuming that this all happened to you and your life has changed since then. So you have evolved to be a teacher, a healer. You're going to be speaking at the Conscious Life Expo coming up in 2024 in Los Angeles, February. I don't know which date you're actually going to be speaking. Do you know which day of the weekend you'll be there?
Actually, I have 3 opportunities to speak. So I'll be speaking on Friday night. I'll be on the Starseed panel on Saturday morning.
Okay.
And then I have another talk on Saturday afternoon.
Great. Well, listen, I would like to, I titled our show Understanding Light Language, and sort of, I kind of lumped codes in with light language. And why don't we talk about some of the basics? And you mentioned the word starseed. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on what that is, and just in hopes of anybody that may not know those terms, understand a bit more.
Okay. So, we'll tackle starseed first,
okay,
and then we can go back to light language and light codes. So starseed is a term to describe a person who has had connections, experiences, and then lifetimes, we could call them, with other star systems. Okay, so this can be related to the Pleiades. This could be the Sirians. This could be the Arcturians, Lemurians, and even the Atlanteans. We'll consider the Atlanteans starseeds as well. And the reason why some of us are starseeds is because our soul is seeking to grow and expand, and this planet offers a lot of opportunity for that. We have a lot of interesting dynamics on this planet, and we are also called to help evolve this planet. So this planet goes through a lot of cycles. Right now, we're in a rather low vibrational cycle, part of the cycle, and we're hopefully, well, we will be, but we always say hopefully because we need to actually be doing the work. So we'll be moving into a higher vibratory state for a number of reasons, but part of it is simply because it's a cycle, and we will eventually end up in the golden age. But it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of consciousness in order to actually make that happen. And so starseeds have been especially called in at this time to really help wake up the world, wake up the people who maybe aren't starseeds, the people who are more planetary based, like earthly based. And there really is no, it's not like starseeds are better than the beings who are, or the souls that have had the most lifetimes and experiences on Earth. There's definitely no distinction or hierarchy there. It's just, that's why some people really know how to navigate Earth. And because they've had a lot of opportunities doing it. And then you might have some starseeds come in and they bring all their magic and wonder and their various tools and stuff, but they have to actually learn how to apply them in this realm too. And so that's why there's a give and take, but it's all about moving everything forward. It's all about bringing expansion and awareness and healing and self-discovery. At the end of the day, it's self-discovery.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate that explanation and description. Golden Age, same as the Aquarian Age?
So the Golden Age is more connected with the Vedic traditions.
Okay.
So like we're kind of in this Kali Yuga, which is the lower vibration state. That's where everything's stuck. It's there's a lot of deception. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of mistrust. All the things that we're really seeing with humanity right now that's less than excellent. That's the description of the Kali Yuga, okay? Right. And what we're finding right now is this is all really coming to the surface, isn't it? Like we're all really seeing the amount of serious dysfunction that is occurring on this planet. Now, rather than seeing it from a judgmental perspective, which is also Kali Yuga, the more, we'll call it enlightened perspective, the more aware perspective would be to be the sacred witness and say, okay, I see that. Now, how are we going to clear that energy? Because remember, everything is energy. Everything is ever energy. So the energy of the Kali Yuga is breaking down. And the unseen is coming up to be seen, to be cleared, to be purged, so that we can all move into a much more harmonious, loving state.
Amen.
And that would be the Golden Age.
Okay. It's helpful for me to sort of align that with other things. These great ages, the precession of the equinox, the galactic year, things like that. That's always been really interesting to me. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so to the topic of the hour. So tell us a little bit more about an actual definition of a light language, light codes. So give us more on this. Give us a feel.
All right. So light language is a long string of information, and I'm going to repeat this again. Everything is energy.
Yes.
So light language is a long string of energetic information that is not going to so closely relate to our human language that we understand with our brains, because that's actually pretty limiting. Light language is far more expansive than that. So light language is a transmission, if that makes sense to you. If it doesn't make sense to you, that means that energy is coming through and being expressed as a string of information or healing. It's typically one or the other. There is some intertwining, but generally a light language channeling transmission is more focused on one or the other. And it'll kind of go on for a bit. Like we can speak, say, in sentences. A light code would be that same drawn out information compacted down into a symbol. So you can kind of relate to it as like a zip file on a computer, where you take a huge amount of information and compact it down into a nice little tidy package that you can easily move around and work with. That's the difference. Otherwise, excellent. It's the same thing. Yeah.
That's excellent. I never thought about the zip file. I like that. And I never really thought about the distinction. It's super powerful stuff. And I'm very glad to hear that there has been the interest in, and that you're, finding different ways to bring this to the public, to people, to help. Now, I know you said that when you first got started with the codes and sharing the codes and bringing codes through, that this was helping people heal, right? Physical healing, emotional healing. So how's that trajectory been for you?
It has been amazing. It's one of my favorite things when I wake up in the morning and I check my emails and I see the comments. I get them mostly on the YouTube channel. Wow, this is helping me so much. Wow, this is so powerful. Wow, this has helped me shift that state. Wow, I feel so much better. Like, so, they are really powerful. And, so far, like I work with them with meditation. That's one of my kind of go-tos is if you have a code, you just go into kind of a nice grounded state, try to be in a heart-centered state. So focus on the feet, focus on the heart space, and just calm the body down. Get nice and calm. And then when you feel ready, you just open your eyes and you gaze at the code and you continue to breathe. And if we can keep our mind from, well, what's going to happen? Well, why isn't anything happening? Well, what could possibly be coming from this? You know, all the monkey chatter stuff that happens to all of us, and myself included. If I can keep myself from judging too quickly, let's say, and just breathe in that meditative state and gaze at the code, that code can do incredible, incredible things. I've felt shifts in my body. I've been transported to into the most amazing, vivid, I don't even know what, like spaces, we'll just say, where I receive like downloads and connections, like questions that I might have been pondering on the topic that the light code could be related to. It all starts to click into place. I've had people pick up the book and like take several steps backwards, having no idea that it was so powerful. And then they're like, wow, like what's in here? And they're so excited to dive in. There's codes that have been really useful for like relieving some physical pain. So like I've certainly used the code in that way, like even just placing the code, let's say you have a knee that's tweaked or something like that, placing the code on the knee and that helps to shift that energy and help it maybe heal faster. Or at least it helps us to change our relationship to what's been going on in the physical body, which is equally as useful in my world. That can be part of the whole issue is the way we look at something. So if we can shift to a more open, accepting state, then suddenly energies can move through and we can experience some significant shifts. Emotionally, for myself, I'll speak for myself personally. If I have experienced an upsetting event or something or I've been triggered or something like that, I can look at pretty much any code and it will help to shift that state and bring me back to a more neutral, harmonious state. And then, of course, I think we touched on the spiritual aspect, being able to experience, new energies and make connections and things like that. So yeah, it touches all parts of the being. They can... One of the things that I think is most powerful about the light codes is that they work with you wherever you're at in the moment. So you could work with a code right now and you will have an experience, something. It might be a little experience. It might not be much of an experience because it could be working on subconscious levels, or it could be this mind-blowing experience and everything in between, right? Then you put it away and you come back tomorrow and you pick up that code. Now you're a different person from where you were yesterday when you first picked up this code. So now this code is going to offer you what you need now in this moment. So every single time you pick up that code, you're going to be in a different state and it's going to be able to offer you something different. The reason for that is because it's the zip file, right? So it's holding this mass amount of information on a topic. And then it's up to your higher aspects to discern, well, what in this huge, unbelievably large amount of information do we need right now? What do we need right now? And it's like it's an unlimited source of healing or information or whatever it is. And it's up to your higher aspects to choose what you're going to work with. So you as a conscious being can also take a little bit more control and say, I choose to work on X, Y, and Z. That would be your lower conscious now telling your higher consciousness that this is, please, can we please address this? And then it will be still, more up to your higher aspects to, okay, how much are we going to bring in for that? So it's always going to be up to the individual. The codes are always going to be working in, we like to say, in our highest good, in the best and highest for all involved, because it's, in essence, love. And then it's up to you anyway, what you're going to do with it. And if it means not working with it in that moment in time because that's not in your highest and best, then the cool thing is that we're working here in a quantum realm where time and space really aren't existing. So you will have your consciousness will have made a contact point with that code. Your consciousness has now an infinite connection to that code. So when you're ready, your higher aspects can go, oh, right, let's use that again so that we can go work on this thing that we weren't ready for yesterday or 6 months ago or 2 years ago or whatever. So I've had the most amazing experiences where I've been in a healing session with somebody. I don't have my codes memorized. Okay. Like I draw a lot of codes. I do not have them memorized by any means.
Yeah. I was wondering if they keep coming through, like new ones, different ones, if they just keep coming and coming.
There's an infinite amount of codes out there. So I can just keep channeling them all day long. And it's really easy for me to channel them there. It's like speaking English to me. It's ridiculously easy, actually. And that was a bit of a problem because it was so easy that I started dismissing their importance. And then I needed to learn from other people. No, this is actually really good. Like you should maybe give it a little more credit. And then when I actually started giving them a little more credit and paying attention to what I was doing, I started to really understand their power. But I would be in a healing session with somebody, and I work with this modality, Fractalline Healing, which was another gift from spirit that came through after being woken up from a vivid dream. So same scenario, body buzzing like crazy. And I hear spirit, get out of bed. And it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, whoa, okay, because there's no way I'm sleeping anyway. So I get up and I just start channeling, and I get this whole download for this meditative healing modality that has been a total game changer as well. And I use it as my distance healing practice. So when I'm working one-on-one with people, if we need to do a physical thing, if we need to do a mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is, it works on all levels. Bring them into the space, their chakras get aligned, their etheric matrix gets aligned to their physical body, and then we get to work.
Excellent.
And sometimes I'll need a code because that's just where the person's at. And it's useful to have a light code come in. And I'll see a light code just pop up and I'll go, oh, that's Padma, but I won't have called in Padma, and I will have not been thinking at all about Padma, but here it is to be worked with. And I'll tell the person, okay, well, there's a code here. And if they have my book, then they can work with it because I happen to know that this one is in the book and which book it's in, because that, is made clear as well. But that always is amazing to me because like I said, I don't have these things memorized.
Right. Exactly. So, we're going to talk about you said that you're going to be doing several different things at Conscious Life Expo. And I wanted to ask you about the panel, and it's called Galactic Light Language for Ascension, correct?
That is one of my talks.
One of your talks. Sorry. And the panel is the Starseed one. So again, why don't you give us a feel for what that would be like, or what's going to be happening in that lecture? So
yes, the Galactic Light Language for Ascension. I was going to touch on a few different points with that. One of them for sure is going to be about the galactic starseed races and the different dialects associated with them. So, for example, we were talking about what it's like to be a starseed, that you have a relationship of some kind with some different constellations, star systems, planets, whatever, right? That's something other than Earth. Each planet has its own vibratory signature and frequency. Each constellation has its own vibratory signature and frequency, and so on, right? Even the galaxies as a collective have their own vibratory frequency signatures, okay? So how we can channel different dialects, we call it, is by tuning into the energy of that planet, star system, whatever it is. So when I channel light language from the Pleiades, the energy is different than when I channel from the Centurions. So Centaurus A, Centaurus B, and so on. And then we can even get a little bit closer if we zoom in to some of those star systems and look at the planets, or potentially the moons, although I haven't actually done moons yet, but I know that they all have their own energies too. We can be channeling from those as well. So the same way that if you look at astrology, I'm not an astrologer, okay, so this is like super rudimentary, but the same way that I have my astrological chart that has come together in a way that can describe who I am, what I've come here to do. It's like I've been peppered with all of these amazing energies and given challenges and things to work through and all of that, right? So each planet, so Venus has its own energy, Jupiter, Saturn, the sun, like they all have their own kind of energies, and where they were in space at the time when you were born, that all factors in. So I can tune into Venus and channel that energy. So let's give an example. Okay. So if we're going to channel just the Pleiadians at large without looking at if there's any other bodies of, any other rocks floating around in that area, we just think about the Pleiades as a whole. I'll just take a moment to connect in with them. Tukunanta yesu tikamat tikanatu sakadat chikadarait sakimat na anasa panati sakamata yeshikamata canada. So they're saying, greetings, my friends. We can't wait to see some of you at the Conscious Life Expo, where we can truly touch more of your hearts and help you evolve on your incredible ascension journey. Okay, so that's ladies.
Oh my gosh, you just you fell into that and floated back out so beautifully and succinctly. And I mean, it's like I know that language somehow. I mean, it's almost like it feels like it's Native American, but I don't know anything about Native American language, but I was going there in my mind.
And all of the peoples of the planet know these energies. They just do. How did we get the sounds to make the words in all of our languages? We go back to some of the foundational languages like Hebrew and Latin, and for sure light language plays a role in the development of languages. But it's just that those languages have been lost, forgotten, altered.
Sure.
And harmonized to this planet at this point.
Yeah.
So, I was going to, if you'd like, channel a different one.
Please.
So you can feel the difference. Now, I would like to say some of the sounds may change, may or may not change. It's less about the sound, surprisingly. It's more about the vibration that comes through on the sound.
Okay.
So you'll hear some people channel the Pleiadians, and it will sound different than what I just did. But the energy that's coming through on it will be very similar. And that's how you can tell what it is. And that's how you actually learn to translate light language. You learn to distinguish its origins because you can feel into what the energy is. It's not about hearing it. It's about feeling it. So I invite you now, we'll channel the Centurions to see if you can distinguish the difference from a feeling state. Watama o papa na ayasoya tkana dalai tana shikanota maso. Pana te sakana da yesterday shikanat to go tkamatana anoshkamate sitia tkamata shikamate. Pana tola. We don't have much time with you today, but we would like to offer you a very quick blessing. Pana jigama anosakamane shikanot tkana dalayaso. Mana toya shikimata yasatkamata jashkapatakana, just a smoothing of your energy field. Pakana into a more coherent and loving state. Hamachi kamadata dokumata, something that every being everywhere is always happy to receive. Mani kyonogamana dokamanda yasateya pa ho hara hara hara. Hara 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 sa sa sa.
Wow, different. I do feel it. I felt the other one was a higher vibe, and this one was more deep and rich and grounding, even as much as light language can be grounding. So that was a distinction that I felt, and I really thank you for that blessing and feel it coming through. And I can only imagine what it must be. What it's going to be like to be with you in person. Laara, the Tigress of Light. It's so beautiful. Once again, why don't you tell everybody your website so that we can find you?
Sure. So you can find me at lightcodesbylaara.com and also Tigress of the Light. So if you put in either of those, you're going to find me. You can find me on Instagram and YouTube and also on soulsearch.tv.
Fantastic.
We have a TV series.
Oh, I will be sure to watch that. Laara is with 2 A's, by the way, Laara. And this is going to be incredible. And the Club Paranormal team, that is our Truth Be Told family company. We look forward to seeing you in Los Angeles at the Expo, at the Conscious Life Expo, which has been happening for so many years. And I just feel that people are just that much more open to what you have to offer, Laara. It's going to be fantastic. And I wish you safe travels down here and, just beautiful brilliance on your continued journey.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. And thanks for listening, everybody. I hope that you got a good feeling from that, as I certainly did. And we are here with Truth Be Told just to open you up to the possibilities of living your highest, brightest life. Tony Sweet is on Fridays live at 3 p.m. Pacific, and the community gathers there. So jump on the chat and say hi to him and see who he's going to be talking to on any given week. And Robert Hensley has the Minuteman Report every week as well, reviewing a lot of these books. There's so much information out there, and we're here to help share that for you. I'm Bonnie Burkert. I thank you for liking and sharing and following and commenting as well. So until the next time, we hope to see you soon, and shine on.